Well, it's good to have you on the program. There's so much to go through in what has been another week in Trumpland. And I want to start off with this article from the Washington Post. It's a pretty damning report where the Washington Post obtained various documents, and they allege that in late January, after Donald Trump was sworn in, he basically asked the Ukrainian government, and we don't know how high up level this went, but he asked the Ukrainian government if they could take some of their illegal migrants from the United States and deport them into Ukraine. Now, this was at a time when Ukraine didn't even have a proper airport system because Russia had been attacking their airports, and of course during a wartime in the country. So when you're reading this report, whether or not we know if it's 100% true, because of course the Trump administration haven't responded to it, but whether or not this is true, what is your reaction to this, Charlie?
Well, first of all, thanks for the invitation. Look, Donald Trump's reversal of position on Ukraine, I think, has been one of the most extraordinary things of his second presidency. Watching the United States, in a sense, change sides in the Cold War, but the relationship with Ukraine goes back a long way. I mean, he's been trying to extort the Ukrainians for some time. His first impeachment actually involved that phone call where he was trying to link an arms sale to President Zelensky's willingness to dig up dirt on the Biden family. So this goes back a long way. But again, the whole notion, this renditioning of migrants to foreign countries has really become kind of an ugly chapter. I mean, it's bad enough that we're sending migrants to that notorious prison in El Salvador, but now we're getting these reports of shipping people off to, well, allegedly Ukraine. That's not going to happen, obviously, but places like Libya, and there's a certain nightmarish dystopian quality to all of this.
We know, Charlie, that there's obviously been a massive problem when it comes to illegal migration in the United States. That's not something that anyone would disagree on. It was horrific numbers under the Biden administration, and Donald Trump is obviously trying to clean up that mess in the way that he wants to, and he has got these partners. He's got El Salvador, as you mentioned. He's got Mexico, Costa Rica, and Panama that have all agreed to take migrants from various other countries from the United States and take them into their countries to basically alleviate the stress of illegal migration. But Donald Trump requesting to send migrants to Ukraine as they try and broker a peace deal, try and broker a ceasefire, try and get Ukraine back on track, when Ukraine obviously does not have the upper hand in this situation, would you say that this was incredibly tone deaf from Donald Trump to be wanting to send illegal migrants to a country in the midst of a war?
Well, it's tone deaf, but it also is very revealing about the way that he makes decisions. He kind of just throws stuff up against the wall. Where did that idea come from? Who thought that was a good idea? And his position essentially tends to be that if someone is weak and wants something from me, I will demand anything that I can. Whether it's American law firms or whether it's other countries with the tariffs. And he thinks that Ukraine owes the United States. He thinks he's got leverage with Ukraine to make them cut any sort of a deal. They did get the mineral deal this past week, but in Donald Trump's mind, he sort of have the list. These are things I want. These are people who I'm going to bully into giving it to me. So yes, this would be pretty much on brand, actually, as tone deaf as it is.
And of course, we weren't told how many migrants he had requested to deport to Ukraine. We weren't told if the upper levels of government in Ukraine even took this proposal seriously. So it's just an interesting thing, and at a very interesting time, Charlie, in late January, when he'd only just been sworn in, that he basically had asked the Ukrainian government if they would do this, when they're obviously in a vulnerable situation as the administrations turn over. So it was a bizarre situation, one anyone wouldn't have expected. But I'm going to move on to this meeting between newly elected Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, and Donald Trump, meeting for the first time after a very tumultuous few months. We wondered if Mark Carney would antagonize Donald Trump. We wondered if Donald Trump would behave. We wondered if it would be civil. And to an extent, it was pretty civil. But we did see Mark Carney say to Trump that Canada was not up for sale and it never would be. How do you think this meeting went?
Well, these meetings in the Oval Office have become little dramas, haven't they? You know, you don't know whether someone's going to come in and be berated or whether or not it's going to be a love fest. But I thought the main takeaway from that was that Mark Carney sat there a few feet away from the president and said that to his face. We are not selling Canada. Canada is not for sale. It will never happen. And so he looked Donald Trump right in the eye and told him no, which is, not an experience that Trump particularly enjoys. Then Trump responds later by saying, we'll never say never. Prime Minister Carney had just said, never. It's never going to happen. And I thought it was interesting that a reporter asked Mark Carney later, what was going through your mind when Donald Trump was going through his various riffs about trade and Canada becoming a stay? What was going through your mind? And he said, you really don't want to know. I really don't want to say what was going through my mind. But it's always an interesting question what these world leaders are thinking as they're sitting in the Oval Office with Donald Trump, who is sometimes insulting them to their face or making up stories or trying to pressure them or sometimes trying to charm them. What is actually going through their minds?
And we did wonder what kind of approach Mark Carney would take, Charlie, because of course we saw that blow up in the Oval Office between Trump and Zelensky. And then in the aftermath of that, we saw Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron really having to rein it in and learn how to control themselves. Not that they don't know how, but of course they had to play the game a little. They had to stroke his ego a little bit. And I thought Mark Carney, he did a great job of being able to stick up for Canada, but also remaining relatively civil. But do you think that this is the last time we'll hear from Donald Trump calling Canada the 51st state?
Oh, absolutely not. No. When Donald Trump gets an idea stuck in his head, he's going to loop it around for years, if not decades. I mean, the whole tariff issue is something that he's been talking about since the 1980s. So no, he will bring it up. Obviously, there's not a systematic plan involving the United States and Canada. The fact that Donald Trump would have trolled the Canadians about making them their 51st day on Election Day is an indication that there's a little bit more id than planning going on here.
Trump, he after the meeting, he went on Truth Social or whatever social platform he went on, Charlie, and he basically said Canada needs everything from the United States and all the US wants is their friendship. He obviously was mentioning business deal, trade deal, but this is despite the fact he went online and said that, despite the fact that the US's total trade dealings in 2024 with Canada was around $600 billion, which included $400 billion of imports from Canada. So I wonder what the motive from Donald Trump was when he went and wrote that message on Twitter or on Truth Social.
Well, I mean, this is the nice Donald Trump as opposed to the Donald Trump with the big stick. But the numbers that you just gave, I think, are really important because at one point Trump was saying during that meeting that, well, we don't do that much business with Canada, that we don't really need them. And then people came up with these numbers, and I'm not sure how many Americans understand how important Canada is as a trading partner to the United States, although we're about to find out.